this morning to the Business Basics workshop that's going to be presented by our Senior Business Advisor, Ree Wacket. She will go into a little bit about her background before she puts her presentation up. But the Stony Brook Small Business Development Center, we provide free and confidential business advice. Leslie, who is also on the call, will put up from time to time our information on how to make an appointment with us. There's a link that you click and you can sign up as a client. It is free and confidential. You never know where a conversation is going to go with a business advisor. So if you need any assistance in your business startup, you have a plan, or you have a dream, you would like to start a business, this workshop is for you, and Ree will walk us through that. So thank you so much again for attending, and I will hand this over to Ree. Welcome. Thank you, Ree.
Thanks, Martha. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ree Wacket. As Martha and Leslie mentioned, we are the Small Business Development Center at Stony Brook University. I am a business advisor here. I've been doing this job a little over 20 years. So I have a lot of experience working with entrepreneurs, all different sectors and all different stages of business, from inception, very nascent businesses, to more mature businesses, to businesses that are in their expansion phase. So been doing this a long time, and I just love it. The nice part about working with entrepreneurs is you feel like people are letting you in a little bit on their dream. So we at the Small Business Development take that very seriously. We want to see that your dream becomes realized. We want to do everything we can to ensure that it's going to be successful. So this is why we do what we do. This is why we're here. We are a joint venture between State University of New York, or New York State, and the SBA, which is a federal agency, to provide this type of assistance. And at the very core of what we offer is our one-on-one small business counseling, which doesn't come at any cost. Your tax dollars pay for our existence. So if you want to set up an appointment with either myself or one of the other business advisors at the SBDC, please feel free to do so. I'm going to leave our contact information up at the end of this workshop, or I think Leslie will be chiming in later as well. So if you want to go ahead and make an appointment, we can see how we can, get that done today. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. So this workshop, this Business Basics workshop, is something I've been doing pretty much for as long as I've been doing this job. It's meant to be an introduction for anybody that's looking to just get started up in business. So this is sort of step like 0.1 for anybody that's, if you know for sure that you're going to get started in business, or if you're just kind of toying around with the idea of becoming an entrepreneur. This is a workshop for whichever whether you're for sure going to move forward with the business, or you're just thinking about it. In either case, this is something that's going to be very helpful for you. So this will let me just advance. Let's see. Sorry, the technical difficulties. Okay. So I mentioned a little bit about who we are, where we are. We are located at Stony Brook University, Suffolk County, New York, on the North Shore. So that's where we're located, but all of our counseling is done virtually. So you can either meet with myself or another business advisor via Zoom or via telephone, whatever's more convenient for you. So regardless of where you're located, we can meet you where you are, because we are doing it virtually. I told you about what we do, in the core of our service offerings is the one-on-one counseling, but we do a lot of workshops like this as well. We also have a roundtable that's held, believe it's the first Thursday. Leslie, chime in if I'm wrong about that date. It's the first Thursday.
You are correct. First
Okay.
Thursday.
First Thursday of every month. That is actually in person in our conference room on campus at Stony Brook University, where entrepreneurs come together and talk about different topics, about different concerns, maybe share some of their success stories, what's helped them on their road to becoming entrepreneurs or being successful entrepreneurs if they've been doing it for a while. Anybody can use these services. As I mentioned, there is no cost for any of these services. We are a public agency, a public facing agency, so there's no cost incurred for our services. And you can utilize these services for as long as you want. As I mentioned, I've been doing this job over 20 years, and I've had clients for that long who have started their business, and if they've grown, and they will still check in with me to let me know what's going on, or if they need a loan to help them to expand to a new location or to add new services. We're here for them, and we're here for you for as long as you need us. So the first thing any entrepreneur should engage in is some kind of self-assessment, where you want to think about, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? So before thinking about why, you want to think about, what is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur, you're going to be a visionary. You're going to be an innovator, and you're going to be a risk taker. And you're not going to be afraid to take advantage of opportunities in the marketplace that may present themselves when you say, hey, I have a product or I have a service that I'm working on and I'm developing, and I know that there's going to be an opportunity in the marketplace for me to sell this product or sell this service. So you have to think about, are you willing to take that risk? And I think most entrepreneurs, pretty much every entrepreneur I've worked with my entire career, and when I was an entrepreneur myself, I myself owned a business, you have to be willing to take a risk. And there is a little bit of a leap of faith. So you definitely are a risk taker. You're going to be an innovator, and you're going to be a visionary. So these are, qualities that most entrepreneurs possess. You also, some of the good things about being an entrepreneur is you have the freedom to set your own schedule. You have the freedom to pursue your passions or interests. You have the freedom to create, as much as you can create, a work-life balance. Some entrepreneurs will come to me and say, I don't want to work for somebody else anymore. I don't like checking in, checking out, and I don't want to be subject to the auspices of whatever this organization I'm working for is setting for me. I want to create my own boundaries. So these are good things, but these same things can also be bad things. So as an entrepreneur, maybe the work-life balance, maybe it's a little bit more work in the beginning and a little less life, so there's going to be a little bit of give and take when you're an entrepreneur, because now you're the boss, you're the chief financial officer, you're the chief marketing officer. You're going to wear a lot of hats in the beginning. So, those freedoms that you have to make those decisions and to pursue those passions and to pursue those interests may take a lot more time in the beginning. So these are things you want to, bear in mind, where, checking in, punching in and then punching out with a job, those hours may be set, versus when you're an entrepreneur, those hours can become a little bit more fluid, especially in the beginning. And these are things that, as an entrepreneur, you want to have that understanding as, think about moving forward with becoming an entrepreneur. What problem do you want to solve? So we say, in studying entrepreneurship and studying creating businesses, there's a problem that entrepreneurs want to solve. So what is that problem? So the problem is you didn't find enough competitors in the marketplace for whatever service or product you're going to sell. So I didn't find this product or service. I'm going to create it. I'm going to bring it into the marketplace. I'm setting this vision. I'm going to put it out there, and I'm going to see how well it does in the marketplace. So you want to think about, the options that exist in the marketplace for whatever you're doing now or whatever you're hoping to do. So going forward who you're going to be potentially competing with. And what makes you qualified to start a company? Do you have good organizational skills? Do you have the pertinent experience in the industry that you're going into to create a successful business? Do you possess good time management skills? Are you good with marketing and promoting the business? How good are you with implementing perhaps a point of sale system, if that's something you're going to need to sell your product or service? How good are you with utilizing social media and getting yourself out there, onto the internet, so people know that you're aware of how to reach them in modalities that maybe you haven't used before. Maybe you haven't used Instagram much before, or you haven't used Facebook much before personally, but these are very powerful tools that you need to use as an entrepreneur Do you know how to use them? Now with number 5, what makes you qualified? You know, if there's any skills that you might need with perhaps you need to work on creating a business plan. This is a workshop that we'll have here on creating a business plan. I believe it's the next one in this series. If you need to learn how to, you know, keep track of your income and your expenses coming in, you may want to use something like a data management system like QuickBooks. If you don't have those skills, you can acquire those skills. These are things that the Small Business Development Center can help you with. And we run workshops on a variety of different topics. If you don't have the skills, or maybe you did have the skills and you want to brush up on them, these are things that we can help you with over time. Any questions so far?
So far?
You just unmute yourself. Yeah. Oh, Leslie, are you going to stay in and you'll field the question?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be here the whole thing.
Thank you. Any questions so far? Les, are we good?
We're good.
Sounds good. Okay. So everything I'm going to talk to you about today is going to be for New York State businesses, because we're the New York State Small Business Development Center. We advise on how to create businesses in New York State. So these legal forms of business that I'm showing you here are the legal forms of business as they're recognized by the state of New York. So the first two, the sole proprietorship and the partnership, are the two legally simplest ways to create businesses in New York State. The sole proprietorship is for a single owner. A partnership is for 2 or more owners. Both the sole proprietorship and the partnership are recognized by the county in which the business will reside in. So these business designations get filed with the county clerk in whichever county the business resides in, or whichever county you reside in. Most of you are probably from either Nassau or Suffolk today. So the county clerk in Suffolk County is in Riverhead. The county clerk in Nassau County is in Mineola. To file a sole proprietorship or a partnership in New York State, you just have to file an intake form with that county. These forms need to be notarized. And as long as you're within the rules and regulations of running a business of that type, you are legally in business that day. Meaning, if you don't need a license or a permit to operate your business, you file your sole proprietorship tomorrow in Riverhead at the county clerk. You pay it's either $35 or $38 to file the sole proprietorship form as a single owner. Same thing for a partnership. You're legally in business that day, either with the sole proprietorship or a partnership. Sounds simple, sounds really easy. The drawback to the sole proprietorship and general partnership is that you're essentially what's called a DBA, or doing business as. So you could be, or I can use myself an example. I could have a sole proprietorship, and I had a grant writing business. That was my business many years ago. And it could be, I'd be Ree Wacket, DBA, or doing business as Ree's Grant Writing. So as Ree's Grant Writing, I don't need a license or a permit to be a grant writer. I can file with the county clerk tomorrow in Riverhead. I'm legally in business that day, starting tomorrow. Tax-wise, however, I would file a regular attachment called a Schedule C to my 1040 tax return. So it's very simple come tax time. However, the drawback is that I assume all liability. Because I'm a DBA doing business as Ree's Grant Writing, I'm still filing on my personal tax return as myself, so I assume all liability. So maybe I get really unlucky and something happens and I get sued for whatever reason for my grant writing business, and I get sued for $1 million. Am I personally responsible? If the judge decides that I'm responsible, technically, yes. I can mitigate that risk by having business insurance, which you should have regardless of whichever one of these business distinctions you take on, to mitigate the risk of being sued. But both the sole proprietorship and the general partnership, even though it's very simple come tax time, I'll file a Schedule C attachment to my 1040. You'd file a K1 or a 1065 as a general partnership. It's very simple come tax time, but that simplicity comes at a cost, meaning I'm personally responsible for anything that happens with the business in case, heaven forbid, there's any sort of liability. Any questions on the sole proprietorship or general partnership so far?
Yes, just one. Rinaldi says, do you need to file in person or is it online capable?
Great question. They do not actually let you file online. You can go in person. I do recommend people to go in person because then you know it's done. You get the form back. But if you can't make it in person, you can mail it. But they don't have any online capability. Great question. Any other questions on the sole prop or the partnership?
Sylvia would like to know, can you still get an EIN for a DBA business?
We will get into that, and the answer is yes. But that's upcoming still. But the answer is yes.
And Kimberly asks, if you don't make the determination as an LLC, does it automatically become a sole proprietorship?
No. You have to go through the process of actually creating a business. There's no default. Any other questions on the
That
sole
seems to be
proprietor?
the last one for now.
Last
People
one.
keep
Okay.
typing. Those are great questions.
Great questions. Thank you for asking them. Okay. So that's the sole prop and the partnership. The next one is the corporation. Corporations are recognized by the state. So to file a corporation in New York, you will file with the New York State Department of State Division of Corporations. There's two forms of corporation in New York. The first one's a regular corporation or a C corporation. The second one is what's called an S corporation, which stands for small corporation. Most small businesses that I've worked with over my 20 years doing this job opt for what's called that S designation. To file as an S corporation, you have to file what's called an election for an S corporation, whereby you file that, it's called an election. There's no voting. It's just called an election. That's just the terminology that the IRS and the Department of Taxation and Finance uses. To file that election for the S corporation, you file with the IRS and New York State Department of Taxation and Finance in that order. What does that election do? Well, what it does is it makes the corporation what's called a pass-through, meaning all income will pass through as personal income to the shareholders or owners, so you only pay personal income tax with an S corporation based on however much income the business draws. Unlike a regular corporation or C corporation, which will pay corporate taxes and then will pay personal income tax as well. You don't have that with an S corporation. You have the pass through, so you only pay personal income tax based on however much income the business draws. S corporations have to have a finite number of owners. So they can't be publicly traded, unlike the C corporations or regular corporations, which can have an unlimited number of shareholders or owners. You can be traded in the marketplace. S corporations are limited to 75 shareholders, and you initially only get 200 shares of common stock. So you cannot be traded in the marketplace. We do recommend, if you go for either form of corporation, that you have your attorney or accountant create and file for you. The reason why is it's a legally binding document, and there's a corporate kit that gets created, which it's like a binder, it's like that thick, that will have your stock certificates, your shareholders agreements, your corporate minutes that you want to maintain in perpetuity of the business over time. So we recommend that you have your attorney or accountant file for you. I tell most people to utilize an accountant because that's somebody you're going to need on your team anyway. Hopefully most of you won't need attorneys too often for your business, but an accountant is somebody you're going to need on your team, and it's a great way to start a relationship. Cost. So the average cost for creating a corporation in New York State is about $500. The fee to the state is about $225. So you're paying, about $275, $300 to your attorney or accountant for peace of mind to know that corporation is filed correctly and that your corporate is created for you. Any questions on corporations?
So far, no.
Okay, super. The last form is the limited liability company or limited liability partnership. This is a hybrid between the sole proprietorship or general partnership and a corporation, in that, like the sole proprietorship or general partnership, you file an attachment to your regular tax return come tax time. Unlike the corporation, C corporation or S corporation, which files a completely separate tax return from the individual tax return. So come tax time, the LLC or LLP is like the sole proprietorship or general partnership. However, like the corporation, C corporation or S corporation, you have a separation between you and your business, meaning you have that veil of liability. So going back to my example of Ree's grant writing business, as a corporation or an LLC, LLP, if I ever get sued for whatever reason, only the assets of the business are being sued. As an LLC, LLP, same thing for a corporation. So I cannot be sued personally as an LLC, LLP, or corporation for anything that the business does, except in cases of gross negligence, which is to say, I purposely try to do harm to my clients. So if you can prove gross negligence, then you can go after a business owner personally. But aside from that, if there's any litigation that ensues, only the assets of the business are at risk with corporations or LLCs. LLCs are actually also more elegant legal structures in that you don't have that corporate kit I mentioned with the stock certificates, the shareholders agreements, the corporate minutes, all of that good stuff. You don't have any of that with an LLC. You have an LLC operating agreement and that is it. And your attorney or accountant can create that for you. However, what does exist with an LLC or LLP that does not exist with a corporation, either form of corporation, is what's called a certificate of publication filing requirement. What that is you have within 180 days of creating your LLC or LLP, you do have to file a certificate of publication with 2 newspapers in the town in which the LLC resides for 6 successive weeks in the public notices section. It's just one of these kind of arcane laws that New York State has that you have to abide by when you're creating an LLC. Because of that publication requirement, an LLC is more costly to form than a corporation, including the fee to the attorney or accountant. The average cost of an LLC or LLP is about $1,000, including that publication, versus about $500 for that corporation. But the quick takeaway is both corporations and LLCs, LLPs have that veil of liability, meaning you cannot be pursued personally, except in cases of gross negligence, for anything that the business does. So you're legally protected. You have kind of that veil that protects you that does not exist with the sole proprietorship or general partnership. LLCs, LLPs, sole props, and partnerships file attachments to their tax returns come tax time versus corporations which file separate returns. That's kind of the quickest sort of ways that I can show you how each of these differ from one another. So when you're choosing your own legal business type. So any questions on LLCs, corporations, any of the legal business structures that I just went over?
Yes, we do. Rinaldi says, do you have a recommendation for a photography business? Might work just for individuals or maybe with businesses.
We would have to look at how litigious photography is as an industry, what kind of photography you're doing, what kind of exposure you're having as a photographer, who's going to take ownership of your images. That's probably a good question to sit down with your business advisor and talk about when you select a legal business type, but it really depends.
And Diana asks, it sounds as if the LLC is the best route to go.
It may be the best route to go for you, depending on the type of business that you're looking to go for. If you're concerned with any degree of liability, then an LLC or a corporation is a good way to go. I forgot to mention one thing with the LLC. LLCs can be publicly traded. You can have they're called members instead of shareholders. You can have an unlimited number of members with an LLC. So you can be traded in the marketplace, which is not the case for the corporation where you have those finite number of shareholders. But both LLCs and corporations have that veil of liability. So if you're at all concerned about being personally responsible for anything that your business, then that could potentially be a good way to go.
Katia would like to know if you need business insurance if you go with an LLC.
You need a business insurance regardless of which business type you take on, yes.
Tasha asks, Is an LLC or an LLP the type of structure to use for a profession where you need a license? Such as a
Great question. Excellent question. So you can use an LLC, LLP, or a corporation for any profession where you need a license. If she's alluding to a license from the New York State Department of Education, where you get something called a P, which is a professional license. So these are professions like doctors, attorneys, accountants, architects, anything that requires a license from the New York State Department of Education, you can get what's called the P. So if you've seen anything that's like says PC or professional corporation, PLLC, professional LLC, or professional LLP, that's where that P comes from. You get a professional designation from the New York State Department of Education. But for other businesses that require licenses that may not be offered by the New York State Department of Education, you can take on any of these legal business distinctions. You're not limited to LLCs or corporations necessarily. Did that answer her question? Les, do you know if that answered her question? If there's any
Oh,
more?
I'm sorry. Yeah,
That's okay.
I asked them to give a thumbs up if it did answer the question. I'll look for that later. Diane is asking, is that just a New York law about publication? And also, doesn't LegalZoom do this for you for about $150?
I only know the laws of New York State, so I know that is specific to New York State laws. There may be publication requirements in other states that I don't know about. I only know the laws of New York State. Will LegalZoom do this for you? Yes, LegalZoom will do it for you. However, when you work with LegalZoom, you don't create a relationship with a human. You don't know who's going to do it. It may be done erroneously, and I have seen it happen. I recommend starting with your accountant, because that is somebody you're going to need on your team anyway. I don't recommend doing it via LegalZoom.
Rinaldi asks, well, he says he has a friend who helped him with the LLC application. And do we have a company that could help do it? And do we have recommendations?
I do not make professional recommendations for any of those sort of things. What I would recommend is to vet those professionals like you'd vet any other.
Oh, Kimberly's asking, can a PLLC own an LLC?
Yes.
Oh, good. Now, Sharon is asking, does this mean that the LLC does not need to keep a record of shareholder meetings?
You do not have to, no. You do not
Jeffrey
have to.
asks, can you start as a DBA and change legal structures as the business grows? And is it better to start with a legal structure you want to have?
Okay, great question. I was actually waiting for this one. I actually did this. So the answer is yes. You can start with one and then move to the other. I started as a sole proprietorship when I wasn't sure how big my business are going to get, how many clients I was going to have. So as I got bigger, I had access to more liability potentially and more risk. So I started personally as a sole proprietorship, and then I moved on to a corporation as my business grew. So you can absolutely start with one and then move on to the other.
Where Ralph asks, where do PCs fit into the options?
PCs is the P for the PC is a professional designation. The P is the designation you get from the New York State Department of Education as a licensed profession. I'd mentioned, things like physicians, attorneys, accountants, architects, physical therapists, and any industry that's licensed by the New York State Department of Education can get the P for the PC or the PLLC.
And how much is the LLC?
With the fee to the attorney or accountant, it's about $1,000. That also includes the publication fee.
With the LLC, do you still need to get a DBA?
No. These are all distinct designations. So you're not going to have more than one. You will have one of these unless you decide to start with one and move on to the other, which is like what I did. But when I moved on from my sole proprietorship to my corporation, I dissolved my sole proprietorship.
Dawn is asking, is it a good idea to file an IRS Form 2553 for tax purposes with an LLC?
2553, I believe, is only the designation you'll need for the election for the S corporation. So no, you won't need that, but double check with your accountant or make an appointment with one of us and we will double check that for you.
And Rick asks, could you expand on vetting a professional? I'm not sure exactly what he means.
Okay, so vetting a professional like an accountant. So when you're looking for an accountant to, interview them, maybe talk to friends of yours who are business owners who have used accountants, set up a meeting with them, talk about how familiar they might be with the industry that you're in, so that you feel comfortable moving forward with them, maintaining your records and working on your taxes for you.
Sylvia asks, does the Stony Brook SBDC assist with business registration?
We will not do it for you, but we can guide you. We do not register businesses for you, no.
Christina asks, if you want to move from a sole prop to an LLC, can you use the same business name? Or
Great
do you have to
question. And yes,
dissolve-
you can, as long as it's available. Yes.
Okay, and do you have to dissolve the sole prop, or can you have both?
So the reason why you want to dissolve the sole prop is if you have the sole prop and it's active and you do not dissolve it, you are supposed to file a tax return for it every year. That's why you want to dissolve it. You don't want two entities at the same time.
Kimberly asks, when filing an LLC, should you have a location other than your home address for the location, like a virtual address?
If you want, yes, you can. This is going a little bit beyond the purposes of this workshop, and in the interest of time, you can also have something called a registered agent file your businesses for you. And this is something that can be discussed when you sit down one-on-one with your business advisor.
Sylvia asks, as a DBA, do you pay 100% income tax on your income?
You pay income tax on your net income, not your gross income.
Dawn asks, is an L3C a good option for a business that fits into that category?
An L3C?
I don't know what an L3C is. Should we have her unmute?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dawn, would you please unmute and clarify?
Hi, give me 1 second. So I can say it the way that I kind of figured. So L3C, I want to be able to, give me 1 second. I'm just pulling it up.
Sure.
It's described as a hybrid between a nonprofit and an LLC.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the low profit limited liability company?
Yeah, with the main purpose is like the nonprofit, the same as a nonprofit, and then the second purpose allows you to also make a profit. I know it's not something that it's like a general thing, but for me, it kind of I'm leaning between LLC and
And
nonprofit.
the LC3, it's the low profit LLC, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not super, to be honest with you, Dawn, I'm not super familiar with that. We mostly work strictly with profit making, not hybrid or nonprofits. We can counsel you on that. I would recommend making an appointment with one of us to kind of flush this out further. It goes beyond kind of what, the auspices of what's happening in this workshop.
Got you. And
But definitely make an appointment with one of us and let us explore that for you.
Okay, I'm actually working with Christina, so I just joined.
In Farmingdale?
Before. Say the last name again.
In Farmingdale, Logia?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Joined
mention that to her and then she can do a deeper dive into that for you.
Got you. Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Okay, Diana, why don't you hold off on that question? Because as Ree said, we don't do go into deep dives with not-for-profits. So we'll get to you at the end of the workshop. And
Or make an appointment or have her make an appointment.
right. And Jasu, can an LLC be useful to start a mechanics business?
Sure. Yep.
Diana, again, honestly sounds like the LLC is trying to do both sides. Yes, we'll get into that when you have an appointment with a business advisor. We'll talk about that at the end of the workshop.
These are great questions. Thank
Yes,
you.
they are, and that seems to be
Um,
the last one for now.
That's the last one for now. Terrific. Okay. So defining your business, you know, this is we're gonna go more into like creating a business planning, defining your business, setting your vision, in our next of our series, which is going to be the business plan one. But we want you as entrepreneurs to start thinking about putting something down, either on a piece of paper or on your screen or in your notes app, whatever happens to work for you, to flush your thoughts out, what your vision is going to look like. And you know, the old adage is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So you want to think about how feasible this business is, how viable it is, and how desirable it is. And that's going to require that you do some exploring, look into the marketplace to see what other businesses are doing what you're doing, maybe what's going on in your industry, what sort of changes are happening in the marketplace, so that when you're ready to hang your shingle and say, hey, I'm here, I'm ready, and I'm business, that you're prepared for any changes that are going to take place. And you've thought of what your operational plan is going to look like, what your marketing plan is going to look like, what your, you know, point of sale system should look like to make sure, you know, once you get those first orders that you're ready to go, what your logistical plan is going to look like. So you want to think about creating a business plan as you move forward with your new venture. So again, talking about creating a business plan, this is a very summarized version, and it's going to go in detail in our next workshop. But these are kind of these bullet points highlight things that you want to explore and expand upon it as you put your business plan together. Your description. So that's legally how you're going to get set up, what industry that you're going to go into. If the business is in existence, you want to talk about its history. If it's not, then you want to talk about your background, your skill set, your experience, that's going to allow this business to be successful. The basic commodities or products or services that you'll be offering, your marketing plan, which will include how you're going to promote the business using traditional marketing mechanisms, as well as more modern mechanisms like social media and internet, your management and operational plan, and then your budget and financial projections. For anybody here that is going to be looking for any kind of financing in the near future for their business, the lender that you'll be working with, and if you haven't identified a lender yet, this is something we can match you up with a lender. We can recommend lenders to you as your business grows and expands, or even as you're starting up. If you need financing, we can help you with that. They will absolutely, positively need a business plan. But even before you submit it to a lender to convince them to give you money, a business plan is a good document or blueprint for you to create, to ensure that you've thought of these things before you go into business. You don't want to think about, oh gosh, I didn't think about my marketing plan before. I'm going to think about it on the fly after I start the business. No, you want to think about it before. Because a blueprint's like a blueprint for a house or a building. You don't want whoever's building that house to be like, I don't need a blueprint. I'm going to get some bricks, some cement, some wood. It'll stick, it'll stand, it's no problem. You want somebody to know that they've thoroughly put a plan together or a blueprint together to know that this is a solid foundation for this structure, just like you want a solid foundation for your plan. So that's why you put a business plan together. This is why we recommend every entrepreneur go through this exercise. We are having a workshop on this. We also have a business plan guide that we can offer you as clients of the Small Business Development Center. So when you sit down and make an appointment with a business advisor, we can share that with you. Any questions on a business plan?
Yes, actually, Kimberly would like to know, does a business plan need to have a succession plan?
Doesn't need to have great question. Doesn't need to have a succession plan. Is it a good idea? Yes, but it's not mandatory, and a lender won't necessarily look for that. But it is a good idea to think about as an entrepreneur.
Okay, that's it for now.
Excellent question. And ironically, I'm actually taking a workshop on succession planning after I deliver this one today. So great question and very timely. No other questions, Les?
No other questions right now.
Alrighty. So your market planning. So I want to talk about this for a minute. So, you can think you have the greatest product or service in the world, but if you don't know how to market it and you don't know how to get it to your market, it doesn't really matter. I happen to think there's a market for almost anything. We have to remember, back, oh gosh, what was it, like 75 years ago, something like that, in the 1950s, somebody marketed a pet rock. So somebody took a rock and marketed it and sold it to people, and they paid them money for a rock. So if you can sell a pet rock, you can sell almost anything. But you have to know how to get the word out that your product or service is ready and is willing to take customers. So you want to conduct your own market research. We can supplement any market research that you do, but you want to look for things like, what are industry trends? I'm going to use an example of a real client that I had who is actually is still in business. She was one of my first clients. This was in the early 2000s, and it was at the height of kind of the cupcake phase, the cupcake craze, where there were just cupcake bakeries and bakeries that just sold cupcakes. She was a terrific baker and wanted to create just a cupcake bakery. And she looked into the marketplace and saw that, there weren't a lot of cupcake bakeries in her area, and that the market was rich and ripe for a cupcake bakery. So she came to the Small Business Development Center. We worked on her business plan, but we got stuck on the marketing the section, because she was worried about investing in a brick and mortar place, meaning an actual bakery storefront, because she was only selling the cupcakes. She only wanted to be open 10 to 2 Monday through Friday. She was a mom. She wanted to be around for her kids. So that financially didn't make any sense for her, because you can't forget about making money. You're not going to break even if, you're only open 20 hours a week. So she decided to scale back on that and said, well, I can't support a storefront, but people want cupcakes. Maybe I can use a business incubator to satisfy the market that is demanding more and more cupcakes. So she used an incubator space, which is a commercial kitchen, to sell her cupcakes. She's still doing that today. And she identified the cupcake craze in the early 2000s. But what came very soon thereafter is a demand for sugar-free, gluten-free cupcakes as well. So she amended her business plan and her business to serve trends that were taking place in the marketplace. So she was able to pivot. We use that word pivot a lot, especially during the pandemic, but she was able to pivot quickly when there was a demand for sugar-free, gluten-free. I think she also did it. Yes, she does. She does a dairy-free. So you want to make sure that as a business owner, when you're looking at your market, that if there's any change in the marketplace, that you're ready to make that pivot, or that you're able to satisfy any potential new demands on the market or changes in the marketplace. You also always want to keep an eye on who your competitors are, because they'll be keeping an eye on you. One other thing I want to clarify is the difference with your clients or your customers and your end users. So when you're thinking about marketing and promoting your business. So your customers or your clients are the individuals or organizations that pay for your services. Your end users are the people or entities or organizations who use them. They're not always the same. Sometimes they're different. So the example that I use is there used to be, back in the day when I was growing up in the 80s, there would only be cartoons. There was never Cartoon Network or Disney Channel. Cartoons were only on Saturday mornings. So Saturday morning cartoons, the commercials that you would see would be for fast food, for toys, for candy, for sugary cereals, because children would be watching the cartoons and they would be subject to these marketing strategies. The children are the end users of these products, the toys, the sugary cereals, the candy, the fast food, the whatever. But the end users were the kids, but the customers or the clients was whoever's paying for that would be their parents or guardians. So when you market, you want to make sure you market to both, because the kids don't have the ability to pay for the services or products, but their parents do. So you expose your end users to your products so they can influence the customers to pay for them for you. So that's just an example of how the end users are different from the customers. It's not always the same people. So when you're marketing, keep that in mind. Any questions on business planning or marketing?
Well,
Market.
Sylvia is asking, did the baker end up selling cupcakes online and shipping them?
Yes. Yep.
And we do have two of them that hopped in here quickly. Is an EIN the same as a reseller certificate?
So that's coming. Hang on to that. Coming up.
And Diana says that she doesn't have a question, but your reference to pivot is brilliant.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So no other questions on marketing, end users versus customers, target markets, how to reach your market. And remember, we at the Small Business Development Center can help you with your market research. And one last thing I want to say about this slide is we are one of 20 centers in New York State, small business development centers, and we have access to a research network, which is a research library that works for us that can supplement any market research that we do together as a business advisor and client, and they're brilliant. So if you become a client of the SBDC, you have access to our research library as well.
Rinaldi says, do we have a marketing and/or business plan questionnaire to help make up this business plan?
Yes, we have a guide. We do.
Okay, I think we're ready to move forward.
Yeah, ready to move on? All right, super. Let's talk money. All right, so you've created your business plan, you have your vision, you've set it, you've explored your marketplace. How much money are you going to need? Startup budget is actually remarkably simple. You're going to have your startup costs. So that's going to be things like registering your business, getting your initial inventory, purchasing a point of sale system, maybe purchase some equipment, some supplies, software, anything you're going to need to actually get started up. You're going to have those startup costs. In addition to that, is a good idea to have working capital for 6 to 12 months. What is working capital? That's anything that you're going to need to fulfill operating expenses. Stuff like cost of your goods, cost of insurance, cost of payroll if you have employees, cost of your rent if you have a brick and mortar location, your cost of any marketing costs that you may have, utilities if you have utilities for a space. So any kind of cost you incur on a month-to-month basis, you want to set aside some of that as working capital for 6 to 12 months. Do you have to have that at the outset? No, you don't. But it's a good rule of thumb to provide a cushion for the beginning in case cash just trickles through and doesn't flow super steadily. It gives you that cushion until cash starts flowing a little bit more steadily. So that would equal your startup budget, your startup costs plus working capital for 6 to 12 months. Any questions?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Financing your business. So for any of you that are looking for a loan at some point, we have the 5 C's. The first one's the capacity to repay. So the capacity to repay will be illustrated in your financials and specifically your financial projections, which you'll need to have created in addition to your business plan to submit to the lender. A financial projection is something I will create for you. If you're looking for a loan, as your business advisor, I'll be happy to create that for you. Capital investment, that's how much you're injecting into the venture. There is an assumption that you are injecting your own money into the venture. You cannot finance 100% of your business. Collateral, that means you're going to guarantee the amount that you're borrowing with something. Most people use their largest asset, which for most people is going to be their home. Conditions, that's your business plan. So you're going to show what the conditions for operating this business are going to be. That's going to be all laid out in your business plan, which you're going to work on with the Small Business Development Center. So it's going to look great. And we're going to give it to the lender and it's going to be ready to be read and approved. and your character. The last thing is going to be the experience that you have in the industry that you're going into or the business that you're going into, and your credit. So lending is tight. Credit is hard right now. The magic figure that lenders look for is really 700 or over. Some lenders will look at mid 600s or over. We will help identify a lender for you to match the circumstances that you're in when you're looking around to get financing. So we can assist you with matching you with a bank. But when you're thinking about looking for money and financing your business, these are the 5 C's that you want to keep in mind. And just bear in mind again that you will have to submit a business plan to the lender with financial projections, going back to the first C, which is the capacity to repay, which again, I will be happy to create for you to be submitted to the lender. Any questions on financing?
Nope.
Or anything on the 5 C's?
No.
None? Okay. Taxation. Okay, so I went over some of this already. How you file depends on your legal business distinction. So to recap from the slide about the different legal business distinctions, sole proprietorship and general partnerships file an attachment to the 1040. An LLC does as well. The sole proprietorship files an attachment called a Schedule C. A general partnership or partnership files a Form 1065 to the 1040 personal return, and an LLC files an attachment called a K1 to the 1040 tax return. The corporation, whether it's an S corporation or regular corporation, will file something called an 1120 for a regular corporation or C corporation, or an 1120S for an S corporation. Some products or services are subject to sales tax. For those that are subject to sales tax, you will need a few items. You will need something called a resale certificate, which will allow you to withhold paying sales tax to your vendors for an item that you're reselling. So if you're a reseller of iPhones, or any phones, mobile phones, you will purchase the mobile phones from your vendor and you will resell them. When you purchase them from your vendor, you don't pay sales tax. But when you sell them, you not only collect sales tax, you pay sales tax back to the state 4 times a year. In order to withhold paying sales tax to your vendor, you need something called a resale certificate. In addition to that, you will need something called a sales tax authorization number. Somebody asked about that before. That will allow you to be a sales tax collector in New York State. Not all items are subject to sales tax. Not all services are subject to sales tax. We can let you know what is and what is not, and we can share with you the sales tax guides from New York State Department of Taxation and Finance. And every business needs something called an employee identification number, or EIN number. It's commonly called a tax ID number, but they're all one and the same, EIN. Technically, sole proprietorships without any employees can use a social security number. We do not recommend that. We recommend that you get a EIN number so you don't have your social security number floating around more than it has to be. So get an EIN number from the IRS. It's free to get. And it will be the number that identifies your business as a tax-paying business to the Internal Revenue Service, and it will be used on your tax returns. It will also be used by your bank when you create a bank account. Any questions on taxation?
Oh, yeah.
And again, this is just meant as an introduction.
Oh, yes. The question Diana has is, since one's home is part of the equation, should your LLC pay rent to whoever owns the house, even if it's yourself? And should there be a relationship between your business money and the cost of your home office?
This is a better question for your accountant. Can you do that? Yes.
And Rinaldi asks, is there a website that will help to ensure all sales taxes are in compliance if you're relying more on yourself than on an accountant?
Great question. You can go to New York State Department of Taxation and Finance for those resources. Bear in mind, for sales tax, New York State has 100 sales tax jurisdictions. So you want to make sure you're collecting the appropriate sales tax. So the sales tax, if you sell your product in Buffalo, may differ from the sales tax that you're collecting in Suffolk County.
And Ree, are you going to go over grants at all?
No,
Okay, Giovanna was asking if there are grants that are good for artists.
that is not, part of this presentation, but I would recommend she make an appointment with a small business advisor. But just generally speaking, the vast majority of grants go to nonprofits. The few grants that are available to profit-making entities are for very specialized industries. But that's not to say there's not grants for her. It's just goes beyond the scope of this workshop. But make an appointment with an advisor and it can be reviewed with her.
Rinaldi did follow up asking, does sales tax apply to the location of services? I believe you said yes.
Yep.
And
Depends on the sales tax jurisdiction.
well, see, because him being a photographer, if he's going to the location to shoot, like he's going to Buffalo, or is the product a physical picture sold in what I know what he's asking to which and sold in which location? Do you see what he's saying?
Yes, so
Okay,
if he creates the image, if he shoots the image in Buffalo, but he creates the image and sends them to her or his client in Buffalo, he collects the sales tax where he's doing the work, which would be Suffolk County. I hope that answers this question.
Okay. I think he said yes. Okay.
Okay, good. That is confusing, yeah. And any other questions about getting an EIN, how to file your taxes depending on your distinction, and or sales tax?
So far, no.
Okay. This is, I believe, my last slide. Licenses, permits. Some industries are heavily regulated. Some industries are not. You may need more than one license depending on the industry that you're in. The example I'll use is construction. If you're in home improvement construction, if you do work on people's homes, you will need a license from the Suffolk County Consumer Affairs. If you do work in Suffolk County, if you do work in Nassau County, you'll need a license from Nassau County Department of Consumer Affairs. If you work in incorporated villages, you may need a license from that municipality as well. So just because you have a license, one license doesn't mean one license will suit all. The industry that you're in may require you have a license depending on where you do your business, and construction is the easiest one to use. You may need a federal license, a state license, or a local license. If you don't know, come see us. We will review any license or no permits that you will be required to have, depending on the industry that you're in. You may need to take exams. We will review all that for you and get the materials that you need so you are not out of compliance, depending on the industry that you're in. And then the business that you're looking to start, isn't out of compliance and is on the up and up and is operating fully legally. Any questions on licenses and or permits?
Nope, not yet.
Questions? Okay. Oh, I think I made this. Yeah, I did. I made the same slide twice. I'll have to fix that. Okay. So that was the last slide. I want to thank everybody for attending this morning. I am here until 10:30 for questions. We are happy to see any or all of you. Make an appointment to work on your business plan, to flush out your vision and your ideas, maybe to create a budget, to figure out if you need a license under a permit. So please let us know how we can continue to help you. We're hoping this is just the first introduction in a long relationship with you and your business. So we're here for you. We are government employees. I'm a state employee, so your tax dollars pay for me to do my job every day. So please come and see us, and it will be our honor and pleasure to help you. Thanks for listening this morning. And I'm happy to field any questions, additional questions now.
We can have an open Q&A now. I believe our director, Martha Stansbury, is also going to come and do a closing.
Okay.
Well, you're getting a lot of thank yous on the chat.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been my pleasure. You've been a wonderful group.
And well deserved, Ree. That's a fantastic
Thank
presentation.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And everyone who joined us today, I think you can see Ree's passion and devotion to this topic matter. She addresses each client with care and a lot of information that you can use to help start or grow your business. So thank you so much, Ree, for taking the time this morning. And thanks everyone for joining us. As Ree and Leslie had said, we are free and confidential. You never know where a conversation is going to go, so give us a call and make an appointment. You'll be happy you did. Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay, there's no more questions?
I don't see any
All
other.
right.
Yeah, there are.
Alright. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, if there's no more questions.
There are a couple I see in the chat.
Oh, okay.
I was just wondering, I guess, do you file or obtain the EIN from the IRS directly?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And they have an online
Yep.
availability? Okay.
Yep.
And there was another question about bilingual counselors. I'm also with Eastern Suffolk BOCES. Do you
Okay.
have people who speak Spanish, for example? in the
Habla
agency?
español un poquito. So we're in the process of hiring a fully bilingual English Spanish speaking advisor. I am decent with conversational Spanish. I am not fully fluent, and cannot present myself as such. That being said, if we have a client who can speak some English, my Spanish is passable. So we will not turn anybody away, but I'm not fully bilingual, just full disclosure.
And we do have other
Thank
advisors. So if you're a client of the Stony Brook SBDC, we can co-counsel with someone who will be able to assist us with fluent Spanish. So please don't hesitate to contact us.
That's great. Thank you very much.
And Ree, some other
You're welcome.
questions did pop in here. But we're not going to get into health insurance, correct?
It's beyond the scope of what we're doing, but definitely make an appointment.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely make an appointment.
Christina asks, can you have an LLC with multiple DBAs so you can do all the tax filing and paperwork under one name? And is it okay if they are a little different, such as a DBA for apparel decorating and a DBA for website design?
Okay, so I'm not sure I understand the question.
Would you like her
She
to,
wants to have, yeah, you should let her turn her microphone on.
Christine? Christina?
Or maybe ask the question again, Les.
I want to see if she's still here because
Hi, Leslie and Ree. This is Diana. I think I
Hi.
understand the question. She's looking to figure out a mother-children relationship so that the mother LLC has numerous babies, each one doing DBA for some purpose, but they all roll
Oh,
up.
I see. Okay, I understand the question. Okay, so technically, yes, you can have something called an assumed name within a corporation where you can have like I'll use myself as an example. I would have my corporate name could be Ree's Grant Writing. I could have an assumed name within it that could be Ree's Grant Writing for nonprofits, Ree's Grant Writing for technology, Ree's Grant Writing for healthcare. So those are all names within Ree's Grant Writing that I could brand separately. But if you're going to have a corporate name and then DBAs, or they're called assumed names, within them, you don't want the nature of those assumed names to depart so much that it's going to draw up a red flag to the IRS. So for example, you can't have the corporate business be a restaurant and then have like a manufacturing business within it, because the way the business is going to conduct itself, the way it's going to take deductions and exemptions is going to be so vastly different that it makes sense to create completely separate legal business distinctions and not create assumed names within one corporate name.
And Kimberly is asking, do we provide any assistance with filing a PLLC versus an LLC?
Yeah, we can give you direction on that. We won't do it for you, but we can give you direction.
Tosh is asking, as a therapist, how long does it take for an EIN to become active with the state? And she doesn't want her social security number on claim forms.
I don't blame you, and definitely get an EIN. You don't register an EIN with the state, you actually get it from the IRS, and it comes almost instantaneously. You do it online.
Mercedes asks, as a life coach, which is not regulated, she has a sole proprietorship. Should she get a DBA and business insurance instead of LLC for now, since the business is just starting?
Yeah, she could absolutely do that. And again, just to put my money where my mouth is, that's what I did when I had my own business. I started as a sole proprietorship, and then I created a corporation as it got bigger.
And iMuseum, I can answer this question. In order to make an appointment, as soon as you leave this Zoom, a survey will pop up. You'll answer the survey, please answer the survey, and it will have a link to the form that you will fill out. Well, actually, if you registered for this workshop through us, then we already have your paperwork, and you can just give us a call. I'll give you the phone number to call. It's 631-632-9837. I will also recontact everyone by email separately from the survey, and you will have my contact info and how to make an appointment.
Thanks, Leslie.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, Katia wants to know, when is the next workshop? Katia, on our website, we have a listing of all the upcoming workshops. I will email you the link to our website so you can get that answered. All right. Ooh, Giovanna wants to know, is it a good idea to have a domain name?
A domain for your website? To have a website? Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have a website. I mean, depending on what you're doing, you know, should every business have a website? Yeah, I think most of them should have websites in this day and age. It's relatively inexpensive to create and to have hosted. You can, you know, host websites for as little as like $10 a year now. But yeah, it's a good idea to have a domain name, at least with a little bit of information about your business and and if you're engaging in any online e-tailing, you know, you can even do sales and link it to any other modalities you may be using to sell your stuff, whether it's Amazon or Etsy or Shopify or any of that. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Martha, thank you for putting up the link to join our mailing list. Oh, someone wants to know, if selling a product nationwide, do you need to pay sales tax in New York only or other states?
Oh, great question. Excellent, excellent, excellent question. You only collect sales tax for the state in which the business resides. So if you only have a presence or an office in New York State and you sell something to somebody in Wisconsin, the person in Wisconsin doesn't pay sales tax unless you had an office in Wisconsin too. So for most of you, if you only have a presence in New York State, you will only be collecting sales tax for New York State residents. And again, remember, New York State, you have to tax it at the jurisdiction where the services are rendered.
Diana, fear not. After this is recorded, it has to be edited by our social media person. So that's why in my blurb, I said it could be 10 business days before it's posted to our website. So that's how you get to listen to the workshop again. All right, I think we have everybody.
We got everyone?
I
Okay.
think we've got everybody.
I hope you all enjoyed this workshop. I enjoyed chatting with you this morning and offering you this information. And again, I hope this is just the beginning of our relationship with you as you start your own businesses. And we would love to be a part of it and love to help you succeed and grow. So give Leslie a call, make an appointment, join our mailing list, come to our next workshop, and have a great rest of your day, everyone. Stay warm, although it looks like we might hit close to the freezing mark today. Which would be positively balmy after the weather we've had.